Backpage.com was the world's largest sex trafficking operation for almost 10 years. Now, the lead prosecutor who took the site down is sharing the story behind the case, the survivors, sting operations, court cases, and the prosecution in a brand new book. Taking Down Backpage, Fighting the World's Largest Sex Trafficker is out today. The author, Maggie Krell, is joining us right now here on The Four. First of all, Maggie, good afternoon. Thank you for your time.
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
When we talk about Backpage.com, we have to remind our viewers really what this is all about. This goes to the heart of sex trafficking, human trafficking. For people that are not familiar with what exactly that is, because the term can be very vanilla, what is it?
Human trafficking is a devastating crime where a person is denied their freedom and forced or coerced into working with little or no pay. And sex trafficking is a subcategory of human trafficking where the work consists of commercial sex acts and the victim is either a minor, so someone under 18, or they're being forced or coerced, and oftentimes it's both.
So what was happening on Backpage.com? What did you discover?
Well, I had been a prosecutor for many years, and almost every case by a certain point had one common element, and that was that the victims were actually being sold on this website, Backpage.com. So the case was about not just prosecuting one trafficker, but really disrupting a whole entire system, an online crime scene, if you will, where victims were being sold in more than 800 cities throughout the world.
How could Backpage operate? How were they protected? Because this was happening very much in plain sight for people that were going onto the website. But to try to take down the website, that's when you really realized what an uphill battle this was going to be.
It was absolutely an uphill battle, and I was definitely going against the legal grain, as I discuss in the book. The Communications Decency Act is an old law that was passed in 1996 when the internet was still in its infancy, I think, even before AOL. And the law essentially protects online platforms from being held responsible for the postings or the content or conduct of third parties. And so Backpage was essentially using that as a shield. But as you'll read from the book, we were able to kind of make some chinks in their armor there in order to shut the site down.
You spoke to a lot of the survivors in putting together your case. Did you ever find a commonality between the victims in this case of why they were able to be lured into this industry? Well,
the victims in these cases, each person brings their own unique story and their own reasons for being part of what happens, and it's totally devastating. The bravery and the courage of the survivors that came forward are what enabled us to even prosecute the case to begin with. We wouldn't even be talking about human trafficking if it weren't for survivors over the years who have escaped and told their stories. I think the resilience is a common thread. In terms of other vulnerabilities, though, anyone really can be a victim. Certainly teenagers and girls tend to be targets. Certain things that can make victims more vulnerable might be having unmet needs at home. So people living in poverty, people who don't have stable home environments, kids that run away from home. This can be exacerbated by failures in our child welfare system, but really, it can be anyone who has those kinds of vulnerability factors, and the predators don't really care.
Well, I know that you were able to take down Backpage, but sadly there are other sites still up and you still have your work cut out for you. Maggie Krell, Taking Down Backpage is the name of the book. We do appreciate not only your time here for the interview today, but also what you have done in order to protect other people who may have been wrapped up into this. Maggie Krell, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, thanks.